Hi, it's Cyndie, the founder of Feminine Mastery, and I want to welcome you back to Women Who Rise, Live, Love, and Lead from Your Feminine, where our feminine masters are showing you how to transcend fear, share your divine gifts, and prosper wildly. Today, we have a feminine master with us who is one of my favorite women. We met a few years back at the Chopra Center, and I've interviewed her before, but each time I get an email from her, speak with her, definitely interview her. She's so uplifting and inspiring, and definitely raises my awareness to that next level. So I want you to join me in welcoming Sarah McLean.
Hi, Cyndie. Thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm really excited to be here to speak to women who are ready to wake up to living their greatest life.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. It's so great to have you back. And I know that you have an incredible topic to share with us today, one that you're very excited about, and I am too. Before we do that, I just want to share a little bit about you. Sarah is a go-to teacher for meditation. She's been teaching and certifying people in meditation for more than 20 years. I know that you got your start at the Chopra Center pretty much. And since then, you've opened your own meditation facilitation center in Sedona, where you offer drop-in classes and also have your academy for certification, which I know we're going to hear about a little bit more about that in a little while here. And then also you've been featured on television shows and noted in the news. And I know that it's because you really do offer a fresh, new, different approach to meditation, but that's really seated in, I know you trained in India, it's really seated in those foundational practices that have make meditation what it is today and so beneficial to so many people. And I know that beyond that, you're a wise woman and a fantastic guide and teacher and, again, source of inspiration. So again, welcome, Sarah. I'm so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I often say I teach techniques, not traditions. Mm-hmm. But the truth is I started out in a transcendental meditation community, living and working in this sort of ashram-like environment in an Ayurveda health center. And that's actually where I first met Deepak Chopra. I was really immersed in that lifestyle of meditation. Then I ended up working with him for many years. And one day I had this thought, gosh, I think I'm done here, which is a very strange feeling to have because it was like the best job. And I thought, well, I've got to go to the home of meditation and what I had learned about Ayurveda. So I headed off to India to live yet in another ashram and lived there for 6 months with a guru and came back and moved into a Zen Buddhist monastery, which was quite different than living in an ashram where the focus is on a guru and being submissive and, trying to follow the rules. Whereas in the Zen Buddhist monastery, it's all about discovering that this benevolent field, they call it emptiness, but this formless field of benefaction is what they're all talking about instead of God, instead of guru. Mm-hmm. So I spent 2 years living there. And so I've lived in many traditional religious type settings and cults, if you want to call some of these places a cult, but ultimately, I did that so I could really demystify meditation. I think that's maybe what you're talking about is, well, I went there so you don't have to. Not everybody has 2 years to spend in a Zen Buddhist monastery, but I can teach what I've learned and you don't have to become Buddhist. I can teach what I learned in an ashram and you don't have to have a guru. I can teach you what I learned in a TM center and you don't have to have a secret mantra. So that's what I'm really here to do is demystify meditation, because meditation is every single person's birthright. There are a lot of brand names around meditation, and you've heard of them yourself. You've heard of transcendental meditation, of course, primordial sound meditation, insight meditation, Vipassana, or at least Goenka's Vipassana. There's the MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction. There are so many types of brand names of meditation that can seem mysterious, or maybe their technique's better than the one you do, or it's out of reach because you didn't pay enough money. And so I'm really all about giving people what they need so they can close their eyes and meet their own mind.
That's exactly what I meant. And I also meant too that I've met some of your students. And
Ah,
I really, through meeting different women that have studied with you, I see that you've somehow given them permission to teach it in the way that they want to teach it and bring it to the life circumstance or the audience in a unique way so that people can really embrace it. And I do feel that that's part of your calling, is making this available, making this ripple available, and making this wonderful practice available in so many different ways and across the planet now. I know you're moving globally quickly.
oh.
We'll come back to that. And so today your topic is the power of attention.
Yes.
And I'm again excited to dive into this topic with you. So what can you tell us about what is the power of attention, and why is it so important that we not only learn it, but possibly even come to master it?
Well, so because I've been studying and practicing meditation for over 20 years, one of the key ingredients to any meditation practice is attention. And I always have to kind of define the type of attention that is used in meditation, because I know when I first started, especially when I was trying really hard at the monastery, I really focused my attention. I concentrated a lot. There was a lot of effort in my meditation. So what I learned over the years is that the type of attention needed in meditation is directed, but it's a gentle attention, a gentle focused attention, not necessarily effortful. You don't have to try hard to focus. Just like you're listening to me, you're not trying hard to listen to me. Hopefully you're just able to do it without a lot of effort. So there's always the conversation about attention when it comes to meditation. Just to round off what the ingredients for any meditation are, the first one is your willingness to do it. The second is your gentle attention. And the third is a focus for your meditation. And the only reason really to meditate is so you can have a better life. So you can pay attention to what's really important to you. So you can be engaged in relationships without being distracted. And so you can be really a force field in your own life. And so the conversation of attention has been going on for years for me. And one of the aspects of meditation that's important, besides paying attention to what you're paying attention to in meditation, is what ultimately happens. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience. What ultimately happens is you, the subject, and that which you're paying attention to, the object, somehow in the midst of meditation, the separation dissolves, so that there's this unity or this non-dual quality to your experience in your state in meditation. So the question started to come to me, well, what is the source of my attention? What is it that I'm using here as a mechanical, as a mechanism to pay attention? And ultimately that question, I sat with it meditation after meditation, and I walked with it, and I explored it. And I ask you to do the same thing. If you're listening to me, and Cyndie, you can too, is ask yourself, what is the source of my attention? From where does my attention arise? And what is the effect of my attention on that which I'm paying attention to? Now, we can look at it in a more of an easier way to look at it maybe would be looking at the power of prayer. Paying attention on purpose to a particular wish or hope or blessing for someone else, asking for what we want. So it's attention meets intention. And we see, and there's a lot of research showing that the power of prayer is very potent. That even if you're sitting here and wherever you are, I'm in Arizona, you're in California, wherever you're sitting, and if you're praying for someone that's going through a natural disaster, wherever that may be, there's some research that shows that your prayers will have an effect on their well-being. It's been proven with petri dishes of bacteria. It's been proven with people with HIV who people prayed for, and it was a blind study, so they didn't even know they were being prayed for. And a certain group of people did not wind up with AIDS, whereas the other group that wasn't being prayed for had a higher number of people that did wind up with that advanced HIV complication. So what we're finding in the world is attention is very, very, very powerful. And it's not just in these research studies. I know that with you and with me, I know what it feels like to be paid attention to be listened to and heard and really got. Think of your friends who really get you, your partners who really get you, who are there for you. That is so potent and powerful. But I also know what it feels like to be in the middle of a conversation and having someone just check their device, it dings, and all of a sudden our connection is sort of disconnected, literally, and they're back onto something else. Now, what does that feel like?
Right.
So attention is extremely powerful, yet it's so subtle that we don't really value it. So I want to talk a little bit more about it, but I want to see if when I ask you that question, what is the source of your attention? What comes to mind? What do you say?
Yeah, I think in this exact moment, I'm thinking desire, because it's, in the moment, it's like a desire to listen or desire to learn, or, my son came up because, one or the other of us is always trying to find each other in between our phones, our dysfunctional mommy-son relationship. But my desire to connect with him, my desire to teach him something, right? So that's what came up for me. I know that there's more there, but that's what was there for me.
So I agree with that. So what powers your desire? So we talked about prayer, and let's just use it in this real simple sense. So prayer includes attention. You have to pay attention on purpose with a particular desire for an outcome, a desire to connect, a desire to heal, a desire to help someone to feel better, or even yourself to feel more love. So there's two aspects here. So your desire to connect with your son is propelled by what? What is the currency that you use to connect with your son? There's the desires there, but what do you use? It's like you have the desire to drive somewhere, but what do you use to get there? So what is that vehicle?
Yeah, it's, I guess, your life force, your power, your yourself, your true self, your being. I mean, it's a great question. It's like discombobulating my brain a little bit.
Yeah, and it will. That's that question. And living in a Zen Buddhist monastery, we studied two different types of practice. We did the Rinzai practice, which is the more koan based practice, and the shikantaza practice, which means just sitting. And so a koan is when you ask yourself the question again and again, and you don't necessarily have an answer that comes from here. It's almost like a direct experience. And so koans are designed to stop the mind from its cerebral activity and to have you have the direct experience of your own enlightened state. And so that question, what is the source of your attention, is one of those koans. Now, here's another koan, and I think this is what you were kind of getting to, is who is it that's looking through your eyes? Or what is it that is listening, that is aware? What is it there that is living through you as you?
Yeah. Oh, you're asking me again.
Well, you don't have to answer, but it's just a question to sit with.
No, I love the question, and it's presence. It's the being. That's what I get.
Yeah. So when we get back to that original question, what's the source of your attention? I would say it's being. I would say it's source, it's power. I would say it is presence. And then I go, well, what is that? And so, I spent a lot of time meditating, as you can tell. But, so what is that? What is that that's looking through my eyes? That's aware. What is that awareness? What is that propels my attention? What is it that wakes up to my desire? They're not separate, but, the late Wayne Dyer wrote the book, The Power of Intention. And my book was called The Power of Attention. And I actually called it the power of love and attention. But Hay House, my publisher, and God rest Louise Hay's soul, she has been an amazing inspiration to me throughout my life, and gave me a chance and published my books. But they're the ones who changed the title of my book to The Power of Attention, because intention has no strength behind it without power, without a vehicle. So the vehicle is your attention. So it's attention meets intention, and that's what you work with your son. And so the source of your attention is being. So I want to give you, let's just pay attention to how it feels, or let's bring our attention to how it feels to be paid attention to. Let's say your son is really, and everybody can do this with someone who's close to them. Let's say you and your son are really involved in a conversation, and it feels like the devices are off, or they're face down, and the TV's off, and you're both looking each other in the eyes, and you're really sharing deeply. What does that feel like? How would you qualify that? What would you say about that experience? What does it feel like to you?
Yeah, it would just be joy, love, connection, definitely.
Joy and love and connection. Well, I would have to say that is because that presence that's looking through your eyes, that's living through you, is love. And I believe your gentle, non-judgmental attention, what I practice using in meditation and what I practice using even now, is love. It's a beam of love. And if you think of your attention accompanied as an expanded awareness, not necessarily contracted and critical and judgmental, but expanded and inclusive, if you think of it as a big floodlight that moves through your life, that you get to shine it onto what matters to you, whether it's your animals, your projects, the people you love, the job you do, your own body, your own spiritual life. What you pay attention to is encouraged to thrive. What you pay attention to with that open, expanded awareness is healing. It's healed. It's connection. There's so many benefits to paying attention on purpose. But here's the problem. Your attention is so subtle that you don't even recognize its power. And it's not just you or me, it's everyone. No one recognizes the power of your attention except for people who are in the marketing business, right? How many seconds does it take to get someone's attention? How long do you want to keep it to get them to buy a product, click on a link, recommend you? How many seconds do you need to get their attention? What will you do to get it? This goes for relationships as well as when we're trying to get someone's attention. It is potent because if we don't have their attention, they will not interact with us.
And I think what's coming up for me, Sarah, is to be able to consciously choose, see yourself as powerful, and being able to consciously choose what you pay attention to.
Yes.
So without that conscious choice, we're so fall victim to diversions or to advertisements or to Facebook ads or to, all of the things about someone in a relationship that really don't matter, other than that true beingness and that true connection, which is really what we all are about. And I also was thinking about it's sort of a two-way street too, and this relates to the feminine, because when we can receive attention and we can give it, then there's a resonance there, and the transformation or that enlightened state, I think, is even expanded further. And I think that's one of the things that women are here to really cultivate in ourselves, is that ability to receive that attention and also consciously choose what. And it's really an infusion. I also saw, like, when you were talking about the light, I just got this beautiful picture, and there's like this transference or transmission of our light with our attention that makes the beautiful things grow or helps people get well. So So what else can you share with us?
Well, I just love the way you said it. I want to sit with that for a minute. It's the light of your awareness, you see, that is the source of your focused attention. So your attention is light. It is love. It illuminates that which you focus on.
Mm.
And so just to get back to what you're saying, it is conscious choice, but we have to become aware of what we're paying attention to and how we're paying attention. And we also have to start to really value the currency of attention and recognize its power so that we don't get hijacked by every ding on our phone or pop-up that's on the internet or advertisements on the television or even billboards, or even get thrown off center by what someone might say that triggers us. And whether it's a negative or positive, that sends us to back into our hypnosis of our own mental conditioning or social conditioning. So how can we become aware? So one of the exercises I would suggest for people to do is start to pay attention to how you pay attention, whether it's for an hour or whether it's for 15 minutes, whether you're going for a walk or meeting someone for lunch, or even you're at work. It's great to do it when you're not in structured time, so that if you've got a little free time, where does your attention wander to? What you put your attention on grows in your awareness. And that's important to note, because you get to choose what you're paying attention to versus what you said, being a victim of distraction and a victim of other people's whims. And as women, we can start to become extremely fluent in our ability to pay attention to what matters. But I also find that there's almost an extreme that can happen. And I've been on one side of the extreme, and I know people on the other side of the extreme. And here are the extremes. I tended to be very codependent before I learned to meditate. So I was very other-centered. Not so much that I cared about other people, but I cared about what they were doing so that I could feel okay. So it was sort of the I don't know, it wasn't the healthy other-centered, I'll put it that way. It was the other-centered where, like, what are they doing? What are they thinking? What are they thinking about me? What are they doing? And it started to create a competitive and I'd have to say sort of a secluded, disconnected lifestyle. And that's so, thank God I found meditation at a young age, but I could certainly see, based on my family upbringing, how that tended to be my software, put it that way. And then there are other people who are so incredibly self-absorbed, not that what I wasn't self-absorbed, it was, but the self-absorbed, so that it's all about them all the time. If you say, well, I'm heading to Cape Cod for the summer, it's all about, well, I've been there and I know all about that. And they can't even hear you because their I know mind kicks in, and it has to, let's redirect the conversation back to what's important, which is me. Mm-hmm. So how can we balance paying attention, doing that, and that connection, that luminosity between the two of us, without having it be all about me or all about you, having it be that beautiful exchange, and starting to notice that is also important. So paying attention to how you pay attention, what kind of attention you're using, whether it's contracted and jealous and competitive or critical, or whether it's open and expanded and a give and take, and then paying attention to what you're paying attention to. Now, here's something that, well, I want to hear, did you have anything to say about that in terms of, you're a therapist or a coach, and I know you work with women all the time, and do you see other-centered versus sort of self-absorbed? Do you see those spectrums?
Yeah, I think I see the I knower when I first meet women talking about what they're really wanting to change in their lives, and I see that really blocks what's possible for them. When anybody is in a state of I know, it's just nothing can get in. No transformation, no enlightenment, no attention is going to be happening. So, but I do see we powerfully in Feminine Mastery I have never called it this, but we put our attention on what's deeper and what's growing and what's true and emerging. And that's where the divine gifts come in. And your calling is that there's these undercurrents of who you are that are below the noise, right? Which is usually what we're paying attention to. All this stuff out here, or these shoulds of how it's supposed to look, or, what's everyone going to think if I make this change in my life, versus really dropping in and putting your attention and your focus on cultivating that, which is so much richer and more fulfilling.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point. I mean, what I spend my whole life, putting my attention on that silent, subtle source of attention. That I call it a field of love. The Zen Buddhists call it that formless field of benefaction. Some people call it God. Some people, Emerson, called it the one. There's so many ways to talk about the unified field of love everything arises from. Some people call it consciousness or awareness. But that is what I'm constantly looking for. What is the source of everything? Whether you're looking deeply into the water in this glass. Thich Nhat Hanh would say, where does this water come from? He'd say, you're drinking a cloud. You're drinking a cloud. And so, or he would also say, if you look at a piece of paper, what do you see in this piece of paper? You see the sun that nourishes the trees, the earth, the water, you see the space it takes up, and you see the logger, you see the logger's family, you see the wheat that the logger eats. So looking deeply anywhere is like a beautiful journey, rather than what you were talking about, the I know mind, which is, I already know that's a glass of water. That's a piece of paper. That's the way my life is. So, in meditation, one of the essentials I often tell people to hold on to, and by the way, my free gift talks about the 5 essentials, and here's one of them. It's called maintain a beginner's mind. Maintain a mind that's free from preconceived notions, that is open to possibilities, to hear something new, to feel something new, to have a new experience. Because in meditation, a lot of times people have the I know mind, I know what's supposed to happen, I know I'm doing it wrong, or I know I'm going to be enlightened, or whatever the story is. So I always say, move into every meditation with the beginner's mind, a mind free from preconceived notions, which I learned in my Zen monastery. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the calling, though, because with meditation, we spend a lot of time moving inwards, and we train our attention in 3 different ways. The first way is we're training our attention to be in the present moment, right here, right now, where your life is, where your breath is, where your intuition kicks in, where the sensory input comes in, where your body is. This is it. This moment right now is your life. And meditation, at least most of the ones I do, help you to be right here, right now. So you don't miss your life, right? A lot of people have ideas about their lives, or about what's going to happen, or when they lose 10 pounds, they're going to feel better, or meet the love of their life, they're going to feel better, or find their calling, they're going to feel better. So they're missing this moment, which is when everything unfolds. So meditation trains our attention to be here now. It also helps us to focus on one thing at a time. So you are able to interact with someone without being multiply distracted. And the third way meditation trains our attention is it helps us to connect really deeply with our interior, our inner GPS, our intuition, even our emotional weather patterns. And so meditation, like I said, is a training for a better life. And to hear your calling, or to become aware of what's wanting to live through you as you, and what's calling you forth, is to be really present. You can be alert to the signs and wonders, and your intuition will go, hey, that's for you. I'm sure that happened for you. Has that ever happened for you in terms of this road you're on right now, being in the teleseminars and the work you do?
I think that beginner's mind has always been with me, and I always wanted to know the answers to the bigger questions, and I love to journal, and that whole connection. I was actually thinking this morning about Louise Hay, with her passing, and I got to meet her several years ago, and it was when all this was first coming through me, and I had this journaling process that was coming through me, but there was a missing piece. And so whether you call it synchronicity or proper attention, or somehow I end up talking to the wise woman on the planet at the time. And she's in natural conversation. She looked right at me and said, Cyndie, the universe loves gratitude. And there it was. It was the next piece that I needed to let this whole process come through, which is now it's still the foundation of everything I do with feminine mastery. So there's absolutely to me, there's these parallel realities that have a different lens associated, a different vibration even, but there's parts of us that are living on the surface and dealing with the noise and looking at things critically or a certain way or I-knowing, and then there's this other part of us that's deep and rich and ever moving and seeking, and it's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think we're all expressions of that field of love, and it lives through me, it lives through you, it lived through Louise Hay, and it lives through everything. And it's almost as if it does have its own intelligence, and synchronicity is part of it. So it arises at the perfect time to wake you up to what needs to happen next. And gratitude and appreciation is key, because we can move, especially in the stressful world that we're in, we can just become less than present, less than grateful, less than appreciative of the amazing life that we have, the ability to breathe and walk around, the ability to connect on the internet, the ability to choose how we want to pay attention, the ability to taste our food. I mean, we have so much to be grateful for. And when we're stressed, our attention bandwidth gets really small, like a small aperture, and doesn't allow the light in, really. We want to let the light in, and we want to be able to be in light, enlightened. And so with meditation, what happens is you can recognize your patterns. And at first, there can be a lot of grief. I know a lot of people, when they learn to meditate, start crying. Sometimes it's tears of joy, but other times it's a sense of grief that they've left themselves behind for so long. They haven't paid attention to the most important thing. And what we notice in meditation is people start to wake up to their affinity or the habits of mind, whether they tend to be future focused and everything will be better when this happens, this happens, this happens, or whether they're dwelling in the past, it'll never work for me because it never has, and I'm a loser, and I wasn't born with the right parents, and I didn't have the right education, and there's something wrong with me, all that, and they wouldn't let me do it. And then we have some of us have the affinity, which is my affinity, to be really other-centered it's born out of compassion, but it can get sort of pathological where we become extremely codependent and disguise who we are to get the approval of others. And so we get to notice where and when is your attention. Is your attention right here? Is it on the most important thing for you? Or is it in the future, which is not a bad thing. That's born out of planning. It's born out of hoping. It's born out of ideas. It's born out of creativity. But if we dwell there, we miss it all. We miss this moment. And same thing with the past. If we dwell in the past, we can miss this moment. And it's nothing wrong with reminiscing, nothing wrong with reviewing our lives, nothing wrong with learning our lessons. But if we dwell there, it can lead to depression. If we dwell in the future, it can lead to anxiety and instability. If we dwell into other people's business and stay out of our own and we're over there in other people's business, what they're doing, what they're thinking, it can lead to a lot of frustration and anger. And there's one other place that we can dwell, which you might notice, is it's that interior of self-limiting beliefs. It's dwelling in the ego, dwelling in self-image, dwelling in that which is changeable in ourselves, the way we look, what we own, our bank account numbers, what we weigh, what our job titles are, all those things that are self-image issues. And some of us obviously want to put a good image out into the world, but when we dwell there and everything is motivated from that, it can lead to a lot of shame. It can also lead to just being completely disconnected. So the trick is to be right here, right now, with your attention as expanded as it can be, and notice what is important to you and pay attention to that. And I think that's where coaching really can come in. What you do is really important. Where is it that we're letting ourselves down? Are we not taking good care of ourselves physically? Are we not having enough fun? Are our relationships suffering? Are we not paying attention enough to our spiritual lives, our career? So this is where, coaching can really help illuminate what we need to pay attention to.
I love that. Well, I love this whole conversation, and we talked about that before we started, that you and I could talk for this could be a 3-hour interview very easily.
Yeah.
But it's so rich what you're saying, and I can feel you've taken me on this journey today, as I promised everybody that was joining us that you would, to this other state of being, this whether it's, you think about it as deeper, more connected, that conscious unified field. I can feel it with you, Sarah. You're so filled with wisdom, with love, with genuine caring. I want you to share just a little bit, because I know it goes on and on, but share about what you're seeing, the changes that are happening with your students that are meditating, those that are becoming teachers, the work that they're doing. I want women to get this piece of goodness that has come through you on your path to becoming a feminine master, because they all have gifts too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then what happens when you really put your attention on that, you focus on it, you bring it into the world. So share with us some of the exciting things that are happening, and then we'll get to your free gift after that.
Gosh, well, first of all, I've trained over 300 teachers in the world who are out creating their own ripple effect, just like you have one, just like I have one. Everyone that felt the call to become a meditation teacher has gone, well, not everyone, the people who have felt the call and have joined my program have had a huge ripple effect, whether they've gone into their school systems and their community, whether they've gone into hospice, whether they've gone into the community or the corporation they work in, and whether they've just taught one person or have been different as a coworker or a family member. The ripple effect is palpable, and I'm seeing when people step into the path of being a meditation teacher, I ask that they keep their practice going for at least one full year, every single day, for at least 20 minutes, if not more, every day. And that's a big commitment. And, some people say, well, I meditate when I'm watching TV, or I meditate on my drive home. But, when you sit down and really, I told you, it takes that willingness to predetermine the amount of time you're going to do it for, and then do it. It starts to train your brain so that you become much less reactive and much more present. So when the signs and wonders start to arrive and the synchronicities, you're not checked out or checking your phone. You're totally present for that. And it's not like you're weird. It's just that you're able to be called forth by nature's, or let's call it the unified field's wisdom and intelligence, which says things like, maybe you should check into that. Maybe if that sends shivers up your spine, maybe you should look into that. And one of the practices we do, it's a 200-hour program, but they come to Sedona. I also have a program in Ireland. We either go to Sedona or Ireland for 8 days. And I help them to really be seen, to really speak their truth, to really challenge their self-limiting beliefs. Because as a teacher, and you know this too, Cyndie, you have to be able to be seen. You can write and not show up on these calls and not show up in front of people, but that doesn't get you very far. If you are willing to be seen and to be heard and to be criticized, if that's the case, you end up having a deeper effect, a more powerful effect. And I recognize that when I worked with Deepak Chopra, there he is. He's so willing to be seen. He's so willing to share who he is with people. And just like a beautiful flower, it doesn't have self-consciousness. It's there to be seen, a beautiful landscape. A baby, before it gets its ego in place, is like, I'm here. Are you there? There's this willingness. And I have to really take people back to being comfortable in their own skin. And so there is a huge ripple effect, not only in who they're being as they are now in the meditation teacher practice, but in the ways they're teaching. Because I teach a pretty much a foolproof method on how you can meditate. And, you know, they offer it for free a lot of the times. They don't charge a lot for their services because I'm kind of the counterculture on meditation. I really want it to be accessible to everybody, and they don't have to believe a certain religion. And in fact, I was getting ready for this call, and I was dwelling on a shuttle ride I had with a man. I was heading over to Thich Nhat Hanh's retreat center in San Diego, and I was the last person on the shuttle bus, and I was starving, and I thought I was going to miss my dinner time there. So I was kind of anxious and freaking out a little bit. And I said, oh, I can't wait to get to that retreat so I can relax. And all of a sudden I realized I can relax now. I mean, this sounds so obvious, but in that moment, it was a real aha moment. I don't have to get to the retreat to relax. I can relax now. And so as I was relaxing, I started to really engage the shuttle driver, who was a man from, he was born in Turkey, and he had moved to America, and we were talking about where I was going, and I go, you know, you can choose your religion. You can choose what you believe. You don't have to take on other people's belief systems just because you're born into it. And he had never thought of that. Because he's saying, well, why are you going to this, you know, Vietnamese Buddhist monk's place to meditate? I go, because I choose that. And a lot of people get to choose what they believe. And I think with meditation, you get to really explore your belief systems. You get to explore what's really real for you, and choose to believe something maybe that isn't real for you at this point, but you want it to be real for you. So I think it really empowers everyone. But what really wakes people up, and I want to tell you another short story, and this is how I became a meditation teacher. I hope we have time. But I was walking with the question, what's that we do?
We don't.
We don't? Okay, never mind. I wanted us to say, you could check it out on another conversation with me, but it's always important to walk with a question, and you don't necessarily have to have the answer right away. So the question can be, who am I? The question can be, what's the source of my attention? And the question can be, what's next for me? And when you walk with that expanded awareness, and with that openness and that present moment awareness, the answer will always meet the question.
I love that.
I'll have to tell you the story another time.
Well, I know. And, you know, please listen to this interview more than once. And we also make the series available for this reason, because there's so much in any one of the lessons that you taught us today, Sarah. There's so much richness and depth. And again, you just took me to a whole nother level. So happy we had you here. And I know you have a gift for everyone, and you can just download it. There's be a button below Sarah's photo on her speaker's page. And so what is the gift that you have for everyone today?
Well, I hope to gift you with a couple of meditation experiences. Generally, I make it a point not to be on an interview without an experience, but since I know you can go on here and do that, there are a couple of different meditations you can listen to. But before you listen to any of them, there's a quick conversation on the 5 essentials to meditation, which should probably dispel any myths you might have about whether you can do it or not. And so I guide you. I think it's a loving kindness practice, loving your body meditation, a breath awareness practice. I think there's even a gratitude practice in there.
Yeah, there is. There's a whole goodie bag of meditation. So together with the 5 steps and these CDs, these meditations, you will be well on your way to experiencing Sarah, and hopefully, you know, creating a meditation practice, because you've heard today how powerful it is and how multi-beneficial it is for you. And I mean, aren't we all here to receive that pleasure of the moment and of life? I mean, how many of us search all kinds of teachings and practices just to be able to be present? And so I feel like it's been a gift to be present with you today, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for being such a great interviewer. And I just wanted to invite everyone, if you have Sedona, Arizona on your bucket list, come and meditate with me. I do a lot of free meditations there. Would love to see you, and you will definitely feel the vibes, the vortex vibes.
Absolutely. I've been there, and I'm going to come. I'm going to come. That was my message
meditation center.
Today interviewing with you is that I'm going to come experience you in your classroom mastery.
Great. Thank you, Cyndie.
Thank you, Sarah, so much. And thanks everybody for being with us today and leaving you with so many powerful questions. And the most important question is, what are you putting your attention on and what's rising in you, and really honoring that. So thanks for being with us, and we will see you in the next interview.